It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity. But 100 years later, Negro still is not free. 100 years later, the life of the Negro is still sadly crippled by the manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination. 100 years later, Negro lives on a lonely island of poverty in the midst of a vast ocean of material prosperity. 100 years later, Negro is still languished in the corners of American society, finds himself in exile in his own land. And so we come here today to dramatize the shameful condition. In a sense, we come to our nation's capital to cash a check. And the architects of our great republic wrote the magnificent words of the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. They were signing a promissory note to which every American was the fall heir. This note was a promise that all men, yes, black men as well as white men, would be guaranteed the inalienable right of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It is obvious today that America has defaulted on this promissory note insofar as her citizens of color are concerned. Instead of honoring this sacred obligation, America has given the Negro people a bad check, a check which has come back marked insufficient funds. But we refuse to believe that the bank of justice is bankrupt. We refuse to believe that there are insufficient funds in the great vaults of opportunity of this nation. And so we come to cash this check, a check that will give us upon demand the riches of freedom and the security of justice. We have also come to this hollow spot to remind America of the fierce urgency and now. This is no time to engage in the luxury of cooling off or to take the tranquilizing drug of gradualism. Now is the time to make real the promises of democracy. Now is the time for this nation to rise up from the dark, desolate valley of segregation to the sunlit path of racial justice. Now is the time. Now is the time to make justice a reality protests, to degenerate into physical violence again and again. We must rise to the majestic height of meeting physical force with soulful force. The marvelous new militancy, which has engulfed the Negro community, must not lead us to a distrust of all white people. For many of our white brothers, as evidenced by their presence here today, have come to realize that their destiny is part of our destiny. They have come to realize that their freedom is inextricably bound to our freedom. We cannot walk alone.